Hello students, today we are going to design some sun symbols. They're going to be pretty abstract. A lot of the time when I'm thinking about this is just using line and shape. You might connect it to our Pablo Picasso artwork where we did some portraits that were abstract. So your sun symbol can be realistic, can be abstract, whatever you like it to be. The first part is taking this circle. I'm going to kind of line it up so it's centered. It might just be a couple fingers on each side. Take your pencil and outline it. Then I would like you to divide it into either 8 marks or 12 marks. So if I'm thinking with my pencil, if I put a mark at the top and one at the bottom, that would be splitting it in half this way. If I go this way, it's splitting it in half. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 marks. Now, if I put a mark here and one here and here, that would be 8. If you want to do 12, you can, and you'd end up with 12 being like this. I do want to try to make sure it's about the same amount of space to divide them. So that's one reason I'm doing it lightly also. When we do this with clay, we're going to be doing the exact same thing. So this will be kind of practice for that. Looks like this one could be moved over. So if it looks like it's a little bit off, just erase it and change it. Now, when that's done, you can think about line. You can think about shape, like I could do just triangle shapes around all of them. I could do like semicircle shapes. I could use a combination of things. But one thing that I am gonna make sure of is that they're big enough. So like this line, I want it to be able to connect to this line. So I'm gonna use 2 different kinds. I'm gonna use triangles and waves. So here, you can see these lines connect to each other. Something I don't want to do is like have these just standing by themselves like this. Like that would be way too small. When we do this with clay, they'd end up breaking off or just being too tiny. So if it helps you to turn the paper when you do it, you may. So if I draw this one and then I'm thinking, okay, well, this is going to connect to this. Then I'm going to turn the paper a little bit so then I can have that connect to this. Turning the paper helps you, feel free to do that. And work your way around. If you notice one of your marks is not quite right, just move it over a little bit. Now, once you have that done, then you're going to start designing the face. I find it easiest to start with the nose. You can use whatever kind of shape you want. I'm going to use kind of a diamond shape. If you want to add extra details like nostrils, once you have your nose, then I would think about doing your eyes. Your eyes can be open, they can be closed. You could have them be the same on both sides. You could have maybe a circle on one side and a triangle on another. You can decide what you would like. I am gonna put details on the inside of the eyes too. If I wanted the eyes to be closed, I could just draw a line to make the eye be closed. Once you have the eyes, think about the mouth. It could be open, could be closed, could have teeth. When I work with clay, I'm gonna do kind of a spiral shape. So I find it kind of fun to do kind of a looping line that's gonna end up coming around. And then I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. Once I have the eyes, nose, and mouth, then I'm going to put a few extra details on here. So I think I'm gonna do some eyebrow shapes. You could add a forehead shape. I do like the idea of adding like a chin shape or adding cheek shapes. And then when we use clay tools on these, we're gonna be able to do line and texture like we did with the dragons. So if you do wanna put lines on here, if I do 3 on this side, put 3 on this side. If you wanted to do something like dotted line, think about line and texture. When you get done designing things, please raise your hand. I'll give you a marker and we will trace it out. Now, when you trace it, same thing with the circle. If you're having trouble being right on the line, just take it and then draw a little bit, turn it. Draw a little bit, turn it. If I turn it this way, it might work better. So, draw a little bit, turn it. Please try your best to stay right on the line. Once you're done tracing the circle shape, then I do want you to trace everything else. So we would outline all of these details. Sometimes I do like to use a combination of thin line and thick line. So right now I've got only thin line, but if you do some line like this and put a line next to it, it'll make that line wider. So you use a combination of thick and thin line. I'm gonna move over to this one that has more done on it. So when you are finished tracing it with marker, I would like you to erase any pencil that you might see. And then if that is done, most of us won't start this today. We'll come back to this, but I would like you to start with some shading. So I've started here. I'm gonna make this really black, and then I'm gonna go lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter. I'm gonna do it on this side, black, dark gray, light gray to white. I'm gonna do that here, black, gray, white. This will make it look more sculptural and more three-dimensional, since clay is 3D. So black, gray, white. You won't do a ton of this today, so I'm not gonna do much more, but you can do that really on any of your lines. This background space around the eyes and around the mouth, that's probably not a space that I would work on shading. I'm gonna do shading mostly on the details. So shading on the nose, shading on the eyes, shading on the cheeks, shading on the mouth. So from black to gray to white. You can even do that underneath this space too. I'll do the nose a moment because I do think that will make it look like it's really popping out. And I'm gonna do that and make it dark all on the edges and then white in the center. If you choose to blend it a little bit with your finger, you may. That sometimes can help those transitions, but it can also make it messy because if you get way outside the line when you're trying to do this, you will need to erase it. So here I want to leave those spots white in there. So I want to be really cautious about how much I'm doing. If you end up getting outside the line, like I just did here, you'd have to take your eraser and clean that off carefully. So most of us will just do pencil and outline with marker. If you have time, you can start your shading.